Minister.
Thanks, Lasco Corda. Taoiseach, can I ask you for an update on the meeting that you held recently between the EU and Arab foreign ministers to discuss the Middle East peace process? If you could give us as much detail as possible in relation to that meeting and what you achieved. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. A group of Arab and European foreign ministers met in Dublin on the 18th and 19th of February at my invitation for a discussion on the present state of the Middle East peace process. In addition to the Palestinian Foreign Minister and myself, ministers from Bulgaria, Cyprus, Egypt, France, Jordan, Spain and Sweden were present, as well as the Secretary-General of the Arab League. The participants were welcomed to Ireland by President Higgins and by the Taoiseach before the meeting. I had invited this group of ministers based on my previous engagement with them on this issue over the last 18 months. Although there were a number of EU ministers present, we did not, of course, represent the EU as a whole. All of those who were present share a vision for peace and believe that the resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and believe in our resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict based on the two-state solution, and that is essential, in our view, to a successful new peace plan. Ministers emphasised their support for a comprehensive Middle East peace, which meets the legitimate rights and aspirations of both parties, the rights of Palestinians to freedom and statehood, and the right of Israelis to security and regional acceptance. We urged international mobilisation and serious and effective negotiations to create a political horizon so as to counter disillusionment and potential radicalisation. Participants reiterated their support for every credible effort to get such serious negotiations started. It was always envisaged that this meeting would be a private discussion, and so we didn't produce a declaration or long public statement. This format allowed for the maximum of openness and straight talking, and we certainly had that. I will not therefore comment in detail on who said what, but what I can say, Deputy, is that the purpose of this meeting was to bring people together that have a shared interest in a peace plan which may emerge in the coming months, landing successfully in terms of both content and approach.
Thanks, Minister. You said there were 6 European countries, Jordan and Egypt. Can you tell us, was there any representatives from Israel invited, or did they decline? And were there any other invitees who either didn't turn up or declined? You might be able to give us that information. We're like yourselves on this matter. We share an interest in the Middle East peace process, a long-running conflict, and we subscribe to the view that a two-state solution, which would deliver a fully sovereign state of Palestine, independent and coexisting with Israel, is a goal which I think we all want to achieve. Despite that, I think the condemnation from Ireland, the EU and many in the international community that Israel continues to build the settlement programme in the occupied territories is a cause of concern to us all, and it's something which will work counterproductive against any peace initiative. I also want to put on the record of the Dáil that I and my party wholly condemn the anti-Semitic attacks and the increase in the rise in anti-Semitic activity across Europe and elsewhere, and recent events in France are an example of this. I just want to put that on record. So, Taoiseach, if you could tell us, were the Israelis or any representatives from Israel invited, and who else declined? Also, can I ask you, was there any consensus on the way forward? Could you give us that detail?
Minister to respond.
Just two other little brief questions. Do you accept that Israel is acting unilaterally in continuing to build the settlements in the occupied territories? And do you accept that it's a breach of international law?
Let's try and keep to the time schedule.
Yeah, well, just on settlements, I think I've been very clear many times on that. We think that the expansion of settlements in occupied territory is a breach of international law. We believe it shouldn't be happening. We believe that it undermines the capacity for a viable two-state solution and makes it more difficult to negotiate. It also undermines the context by which we can achieve a fair settlement and causes unnecessary tension. So for lots of reasons, I have been both vocal and critical of expanding settlements in the West Bank. I want to join with you to absolutely reject and criticise any comments that may be linked to anti-Semitism. It is something that we should all stand up against, and given the history of anti-Semitism in the European Union in the past, it's something that we need to guard against in the future and learn lessons from. In terms of those who were invited, everybody that was invited came. We felt that, by the way, this initiative came from a conversation between myself and Foreign Minister Maliki.
Thanks, you have another minute. Deputy Collins, final question. We have to observe the time.
Thanks. When you get a subsequent reply, Minister, you might just tell us about the Israelis. Were they invited? Could I just ask you, previously, I think it was September 2018, when you announced that you were convening this meeting, you said that Ireland would be forced to recognise the state of Palestine. Can I ask, is that still your thinking now, that we would be forced to? And why don't we just go ahead and do it at this point in time? And is there anything going on in the background in relation to the long-promised US peace initiative, which we're waiting? We know that there's elections coming up in Israel in April. And could I also just ask you for a comment in relation to correspondence which the Taoiseach received, which I think you received, my party leader received, my party whip received, from about 10 members of the US Congress, which is being viewed by many as a kind of a veiled threat to Ireland and to the Oireachtas in relation to the Occupied Territories Bill. It was led by Congressman Peter King, and it's effectively pointing out that we have a significant foreign direct investment base in this country, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and when you read the letter, which I'm sure you have, it could be interpreted as a slightly veiled threat towards Ireland and our Houses of Parliament in terms of what legislation we seek to discuss and seek to enact. And can I ask you, will you be giving a substantial response to the authors of this letter in terms of saying that we are independent and that the Houses of the Oireachtas are independent and that we're entitled to discuss and debate any legislation?
Before we move any further, can I just point out that there are numerous questions. There mightn't be many members in the House, but they will be coming in. And until such time as the order of business, or as the standing orders decide that 1 minute becomes 2 minutes or a minute becomes a minute and a half, please try and assist me. Thanks to 1 minute.
Thank you. I'll do my best. Asking Corla. In relation to those that were invited, I have explained both to those in Washington who are putting together a peace plan and to the Israeli ambassador and also to an Israeli minister who rang to discuss something else. But I have explained why I didn't think it would be helpful to have Israel at that meeting. What we're trying to do is to have a free and open debate, not an argument, but to get an understanding and a perspective of the Palestinian frustration at lack of progress. It's been a very, very difficult 18 months in relation to the Middle East peace process for Palestinians in particular. And so this was about a meeting of countries that want a viable solution for both Palestinians and Israelis. But of course there was a big focus on the Palestinian perspective as part of that discussion. There have been many forums and will be in the future that will focus on the Israeli perspective, which I think I understand pretty well as well, having met many Israelis on it on multiple occasions. In relation to recognition, we have said that if there is no progress in relation to a Middle East peace process, then we would look at the issue of recognition again, which we will. But the commitment in the programme for government is recognition of a Palestinian state in the context of an overall solution.
If I'm to be in the chair, then we must. And I would ask the Taoiseach members at least to observe the clock, because if I call you short, you're very quick, all of you, at observing the clock. But nobody knows. I'm not looking at you. Well, anyway, from here on in this morning, I'm going to be extremely sharp. And I'm only...
What about the correspondence?
Sure, listen. Carry on.